Hello and welcome to Board Game Gumbo. Today we're unboxing Moonrakers by IV Studio. This is a game for 1 to 5 players that plays in 1 to 2 hours. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's inside. As you can see, this is the Kickstarter exclusive edition. For that edition, the lettering on the box itself has this nice little gold leaf effect to it, and there's an additional expansion in the game, which I'll show you when we get to it. Moonrakers is a game mostly about deck building, with some temporary alliances being formed between players during gameplay. So here's our rulebook. This game does have a solo mode, and it has special rules for 2-player games. During Moonrakers, you're trying to be the first player to achieve 10 prestige points, which you'll gain by completing objectives and contracts. The first player to get to 10 prestige will be declared the winner, with the tiebreaker going to the person with the most money. We've got a little graphic novel that they include with the game. It tells you a little bit more of the storyline of the Moonrakers, which is essentially an outlaw organization, a spacefaring outlaw organization. We've got a couple different playboards here. So here we have the prestige track, as well as spots for the objective and contract cards. And then over here, we have a spot to keep money with a location for the ship parts and crew members that you can buy during the course of the game. Each player is also going to get their own player board. It's going to designate your player color. You've got 4 locations here for ship parts that you can add. And then down here, it's going to tell you what your starting deck is going to look like. It's a 5-card hand and a 10-card starting deck. Pretty standard for deck building games. We got an advertisement for their next upcoming game, Veiled Fate. And then we get to the components themselves. So first of all, we have player pieces here for the different player colors, and those are going to be what you use to track your prestige. So these will just sit on the board like so and move up and down as the game progresses. You can lose prestige during the course of the game. Essentially, whenever your ship takes damage from hazards, your prestige will go down if you don't block it. We've got the coins here. So there are 1 and 3 value coins. And this is not part of the Kickstarter. As far as I know, these are also in the retail version. So if you get the retail version, you'll also get these coins. These are pretty nice, I think. They got a nice weight to them, not too heavy. The numbering's easy to read, although the 3s are actually larger, so you have that going as well. Larger and a different color. But I like these a lot. These are very good. So let's see what else we got here. We got the hazard dice. So whenever you attempt a contract, you may have to roll hazard dice, and they can either roll 2, 1, or 0. You can block hazards with shields. If you don't block hazards, that's how you can lose prestige points. The rest of the game is going to be cards. So let's go ahead and pull those out. First deck here are the ship parts, and it looks like the objectives as well. So here are the objective cards. You'll start with 2 of these. You'll actually be dealt 3 and get to keep 2. And during the course of the game, you can gain additional cards on your turn by not choosing a contract to try and complete. Essentially, if you have a bad hand or the contracts out there don't, lend themselves to your hand, you can pass and you'll gain 2 objectives and get to keep 1, as well as some additional things. It's called staying at base. But you can see at the top right here, objectives are going to be worth a certain amount of prestige. I believe they're all 1. It looks like they all are worth 1. And they have various requirements. The tank one here requires you to ask you to acquire 3 Hanko ship parts for your ship. So those are green ship parts. One over here asks you to have one of 4 different types of ship parts attached to your ship. Some of them require you to have a certain number of credits at the end of your turn, what have you. These will be secret objectives, so other players won't know what you're looking to do. The other cards we have at the same size here are the ship equipment parts, or the ship parts. So there are different types. You see there's blues and greens. That's just basically their function, as well as the cards that they add. Whenever you acquire a ship part, it costs a certain amount of credits. It'll give you a special power that you'll always have, and it'll also add cards to your deck. So when you buy this ship part at the end of your turn, you get a buy phase. You can buy as much as you want as long as you have the credits to pay for it. You would add this to your player board as one of your 4 ship parts, and then you would immediately add a blue card to your discard pile. And then for the rest of the game, at the start of a contract, you can use this special ability. And these cards, these ship parts, have various different effects. You can see just a few of them. Next, we've got decks for, it looks like just the action cards themselves. So several different decks for action cards. So we've got damage cards. Damage cards can be 1, 2, or 3. These are +2. Got thruster cards. On your turn, you can do one of 2 things. You can either attempt a contract or you can stay at base. If you attempt a contract, you're going to be required to play a certain number and type of cards. So you may be required to play 2 yellow and 1 orange card. But you also have to keep in mind your actions. You have 1 action on your turn. So if the contract requires you to play 2 yellow cards and you play 1, this card allows you to immediately draw 2 cards. But you've now taken your only action of the round. So you're not going to be able to complete that contract because you need additional actions to play more cards. For that reason, there is a specific card, and it's not in here, so let me go ahead and find it. There's a specific card that you start with here, the reactors, that allow you to take additional actions. And obviously that's really important because you're not going to complete many contracts by playing a single card. So reactors you want to have in your hand and you want to play to get those additional actions so you can play more cards. So again, lots of different reactors. Most of these cards, there's only one type of them. Damage is the only card type where there are multiple types. There's a +1, a +2, and a +3. Actions are reactors like this are all +2 actions. So here's the +1 damage. And then our final deck here has our shield cards, which again block a hazard. And then back here we have the crew cards. Crew cards are acquired the same way that ship parts are. During your buy phase, you'll pay a certain number of credits to gain them. These will go to your discard pile and act just like your action cards. In fact, you can see the back of them have the same back that say action deck on them. So these will act just like your action cards. You'll have them in your hand on a round and you'll choose to play them. And when you do play them, it gives you a special ability. This one is you can play as a damage 3 card, and it gives you an additional action. This one lets you look at the next 3 cards in your draw pile, play one without an action, discarding the others, and it also gives you an additional action. So these crew cards are pretty valuable. There's also some contracts that specifically require you to play a crew card. Our final deck here is the contracts themselves. We've got some little cheat sheet cards here. And then we get into the objective cards. So there is in here, or there should be, a small expansion that's specifically for the Kickstarter version. I assume it's mixed in with the other cards because I didn't see a pack specifically for it. But that, along with the gold foil lettering, is really the only difference between this version of the game and the retail version. So we're looking at contracts here, and there'll be several of these face up on the board. And on your turn, you can choose to attempt a contract. If you don't want to attempt a contract, you can instead stay at the base, which gives you an extra objective card, a credit, and allows you to go through your buy phase. But if you choose to do a contract, you're going to pull one from the board and put it in front of you. And then you're going to attempt to complete it with cards from your hand. Now you can ask other players to cooperate with you on a contract if it's specifically difficult or you don't have the cards available. But let's go ahead and look at a contract and see what the different parts are. So up here we have the prestige value. This one's worth no prestige. And then we have credits. So if you complete this contract, you're going to get 0 prestige, but 3 credits. All it requires is 1 green card and 1 blue card played on your turn. Again, you only have 1 action, but by playing a blue card, that'll give you 2 more actions. So you could complete this contract by yourself. You also see over here in the bottom right, the hazard section. This one has no hazard, but let's go ahead and find one that does. Probably be near the back. Here we go. So this one has a 3 hazard attached to it, as well as requiring 5 blue cards and 3 green cards, but it gives you 7 credits and 3 prestige. The way that hazards work is the first thing you do when you resolve a contract. Once you've decided on the contract you're attempting, the first thing you do is you roll the hazard dice equal to the number of symbols you see here. You can split that with any player that cooperates with you, anybody that you ally with. You can decide who among your allies are going to roll those hazard dice. You could roll 1, they could roll 2, you could roll all 3. It just depends on what agreement you can come to. You're also going to split the prestige and the credit. So obviously there's a negotiation there between the player who's the active player and whatever ally may want to assist them. How much prestige is each player going to get? How many credits? And what is the responsibility towards the hazards? Once you've made an agreement or you decide to do the contract on yourself, you'll roll the hazard dice, and then each player will play cards in the order decided by the active player. If you succeed, then you share whatever gains were agreed to. If you fail, then nothing happens except for these hazard dice still apply. Again, if you roll a hazard and you don't play a shield to block it, you will lose prestige. You can't go below 0, so that's something to keep in mind. And that's it. That's everything you get in a copy of Moonrakers from IV Studios.